Yo guys, welcome back. It's Daniel here again with another Final Fantasy deck video. This time for a deck that I've kind of been playing for a while. This is like the newest variant of this deck, but mainly it's mainly focused on this Opus 20 Tifa card here. I call it Mono Fire Tifa. But it's just basically just like a little silly deck that wanted to use a pretty interesting card. So we're rocking 17 forwards in this build, 9 summons, 7 monsters, and an astounding 17 backups. A little weird for Mono Fire, probably. Most of you are probably looking at this deck and going, how the hell does this deck function? Functions in a bunch of different ways, but like, honestly, it is pretty fun. I've used this sort of card and a sort of build like this with, previous cards like Takatsugu and other mono fire cards just to get it working. This is going to be mostly a sort of 7 focused build using the new Hell House, the new Cloud, things like that. You got Foulander in there, you got Barrett, some LBs to help you out. But yeah, this deck is pretty fun, pretty cool. Basically, it's just, sort of aggro-y once you get your Tifa down. You play your Tifa, you want to ping out with your 7 characters, and then Tifa will prevent things from blocking and things like that. So you can either kill everything or make bigger things not block, get some damage in, just poke your enemies and be an annoying little shit. But anyways, let's jump right into this deck. Starting off with the main card of this deck, the Star Girl. It's going to be our Opus 20 Tifa here at 3 copies. She's a 2-drop haste forward with 5k power. So when a category 7 character deals damage to a forward the opponent controls, you can choose one forward they control, and it gains this forward can't block until the end of the turn. Now, this is really, really nice because we have cards like Barrett here, we have Cloud, characters meaning monster, so Foulander, Hell House, Elfir can like ping out. You got Security Officer, even your LBs such as Vincent and Zach here can do some really cool stuff. And this is why we're playing her at a 3 of. She does have a S ability of choosing one forward and dealing it 8k damage for the S cost and 1 fire and 1 anything. Pretty cool, simple S ability to do. Pretty nice. It's 8k, so you can kill things. It gets around annoying like freeze cards and lock cards because she doesn't have to tap for it. So you can do it multiple times if you have multiple Tifas. Next up, we have 1 copy of Red 13 here. This is going to be at a 1 of, mainly because we're going to be playing the LB Red 13. He also says he can only be played if you control a Category 7 forward. So this is kind of an interesting card. You can't really cheat him out early with like an Edgar, without having that Category 7 forward out. So things like Foulander here, who is a forward on your turn, is pretty nice with him. Because if you have the Foulander out and it's your turn, this is a forward, so you can cast him and then play him out. And he's a 9k 2-drop. That's kind of good. Really big boy, really big body. He's got the haste on once you have 4 or more 7 characters. So that's pretty easy to do in this deck. 2 Foulanders, a Cloud, a Tifa, a Hell House. Hell, even the backup. You have Zongun, you have Elfie, you have the Security Officers. He could gain haste pretty easily in this deck. So it's pretty nice. Next up, we have 2 copies of Leftia. She is going to be sort of a damage increasing, like a damage ramp. She's a 2-drop 5k. You don't really care about her power too much because she's just going to be here to make our summons and our characters deal 2k more damage. So our fire characters and summons will deal 2k more damage. So things like Cloud here dealing 8k now deals 10. Barrett, who says deal 3k for each, category 7 forward, is going to do 3 plus the 2, increase, so it's going to be 5k. You have your summons, like Ifrit doing 7, Brynhilde doing 7, this Brynhilde from Opus 1 doing 9k, Amma doing 10, this Ifrit doing a lot. Your Foulander gets more damage. Your Hell House gets more damage. Everything just gets more damage with her. She does have a damage 3. When she enters the field, she can choose something and deal it 6k, which becomes 8k because of her field effect of increasing it by 2. So that's why she's pretty nice in Mono Fire. You just kind of want to see her out, play her when you need to, and then, just ping out the enemy. Next up, we have 2 copies of Opus 20 Barrett. Realistically, this could be 3 copies if you really want to. I'm running out of 2 just because it feels pretty right. He is a burst. On burst, it says choose 1 forward, deal it 3k for each category 7 forward you control. It's pretty nice on a burst. Pretty nice just to play in general. You're gonna mostly always have 2 to 3 7 forwards when he hits the field. If you have things like Hell House and Foulander out, that can add to it if you make them forwards. He has an S ability of paying the S and tapping him, and then he deals 10k to 1 forward. He won't activate on the next active phase, but you don't really worry about that too much. I mean, if you have the S ability and you need it to win, let's say you have a Tifa out and you play Barrett, or like Barrett's out with Tifa, you can do the S, 10k something, kill it, Tifa effect, make something not block. Next up, we have 2 copies of Opus 10 Starter Terra. This is just going to recur a summon. It's an EX burst. It also makes our summons deal, when you cast the summon, she will deal 2k damage. So this is also pretty good to get extra ping in when you're using your summons here. And your summons are pretty cheap, so they're pretty nice. It's just an all-around good card. Next up, we have the 4-cost Onion Knight from Opus 16. This is going to be a pseudo fill-in for Clive because I don't own any Clives, nor am I seeking to own Clives. But basically, he says when he enters the field, discard 2 cards, then draw 2 cards. It's just a draw 2. You're probably not going to have too many cards in hand, as you're going to be playing a lot of stuff out. So he can just net you 2 cards. It's just a nice body to play and have. Next up, we're playing 1 copy of Light Shinryu. This is going to be the only non-fire card in this deck. This is going to be at a 1 copy just because it's a generally good card. When he enters the field, he deals 10k to all of the forwards the opponent controls that are of cost 3, 6, or 9. So this hits a lot of nice stuff. Just gets rid of a lot of things. Biggest thing is going to be his at beginning of main phase effect. So during each of your main phases, your main phase 1s, you're going to flip the top card of your opponent's deck. If it's a forward, all of their forwards lose 7k power. If it's not a forward, you just draw 2 cards. So this is another net 2 card. This is also a pseudo stand-in for Ifrit, just because I don't have the Clives. Yeah, Ifrit 16 that is. He is 2 costs cheaper. He is a 5k or 5 cost instead of 7, and he's also 1k less power at 9k power instead of 10k power. He's a generally good card, so I would say just look at this card. It is an Opus 14L, but it is pretty nice, and you will actually like having this card in your deck. Next up is a fun card that I put in just for funsies. Again, you can up the count on Barrett, you can up the count on your summons, up the count on your Cloud even in this deck. This is going to be Arden from Opus 20 as well. Very Opus 20 centric deck here that I'm playing, but this card is very fun. Very just nice generic card. This is basically just to have fun and be a little bit of a sort of gacha-esque deck. But basically, when he enters the field, you put 2 backups you control into the break zone. Once you do, you flip over the top card of your deck one at a time until you can play 2 characters other than Arden onto the field. Basically, it's a free play of a card as long as it's a character. So you'll keep flipping cards, and then, once you play 2 different characters out, his effect ends. Really nice because we have our goblins here. The monsters can be multi-playable except for Hell House. We also have a lot of backups that can be played out again, and almost all of these backups do something on entry. If not, they're very useful. Him also removing 2 backups is another reason why we're playing a lot of backups here. So we have a lot of way to get rid of our backups, and this is one of them. Just helping, you cycle through your backups and playing more things out. He is just a fun card. He is a 5 cost, 7k. If, that's an issue for you, him being 5 cost and not feeling very worth it, matters, then you don't actually have to play this card. I play it because it's fun. Next up, playing the new Opus 25 Cloud at 2 copies here. This card's very just freaking good. He enters the field, you get to choose 2 of the following 4. You can AK 1 forward, you can break a monster, you can remove 2 cards in your opponent's break zone and draw a card, and you can play 1/7 character of a cost 4 or less. Thankfully, all of our 7 characters in this deck, besides Cloud and the LBs, are 4 and less. So it works out very well. You can do a Cloud into a Zangan, Cloud into Security Officer, Cloud into Elf, Cloud into Barret, Cloud into Tifa or Red. Really nice. Really just good for the deck. You also could just ping stuff out. AK ping, kill something, Tifa effect. You got all that good stuff going on. Drawing a card off of the remove 2 is really nice. Breaking a monster if you're playing against like a monster deck is also very good. Next up, I'll just move over to the summons because these summons kind of are flexible and you can probably fix them in any way you want. I'm running the 1 of Opus 20 Ifrit, 1 of Opus 1 Brynhilder, and 1 of Opus 25 Ifrit. Now these 2 Ifrits could be 2 more Opus 1 Brynhilders if you want more EX bursts in the deck. But they do serve their purpose even at a 1 of. This Ifrit just being a 1 cost that says deal 5k to something. If you control 5 or more characters, do another 5k to something. So you could 5k ping 2 things or 5k ping 1 thing twice, which is really nice. Next up, we have 3 copies of Opus 15 Brynhilder. This card doesn't really need too much explaining. It's just a 2 cost EX burst that deals 5k when it kills something, or if the forward that it pinged dies, you just draw a card off of it. Cool thing to note, it just says choose 1 forward, so you could choose your own forward if your opponent, let's say, Shantoto's your board and you don't want a forward removed. Let's say that Shantoto your board and you don't want Tifa to get removed. You can kill that Tifa with a Brynhilder to draw a card, and then Tifa will go to break zone. It works out if you think about it when it's like things like that, like remove a forward. Pretty nice to do. And yeah, next up we have the 1 of Opus 1 Brynhilder. This is just going to be a free 7k ping on a burst. Or you just cast it for 3, which you don't really mind. That's all it's really here for. It's just for the 7k ping. It hits a lot of other cards that might be, above the 5k range that you want to get rid of. Next, another summon that doesn't need any explaining in any deck that can run fire. It's going to be Amaterasu. You just always kind of need to play this at a 3. Unfortunately, this is a staple fire card that is well beyond its prime. It is just way too good not to play. And then our last summon is going to be, again, our Opus 25 Ifrit. This card has the added effect of removing a fire backup to reduce the cost by 2. So instead of it being a 4 cost, it becomes a 2 cost. Now, this is another reason why we're playing it in the deck. It's another way to get rid of a backup. So we have cards that we might, backups we might want to get rid of, like a Security Officer. Maybe we played the Zac early and now we want to LB Zac, but we can't because we have Zac backup. We can remove that backup and then just play this out. We also can get rid of Zangan. Since Tifa already has haste, he doesn't really need to give her haste. He's just there to search for her. But basically, it's a good way to get rid of backups that you don't really need to have out anymore. Same thing with Arden. It gets rid of 2 backups that you just generally don't want to use anymore, or you just have no use for. Next up is going to be our 7 monsters here. We have 3 goblins from Opus 4. This one, it just gives haste to forward and draws a card. Really nice if you're trying to push for damage early on with something like a Foulland or Tifa combo. It's really cool. You can give Hell House haste after you play him on damage 3, so you can deal that 3k ping. Giving Barret haste and stuff like that is pretty nice because he has the S ability. And then it's just generally a free draw. We have Foulander, which we've been talking about, quite a bit. It's going to be a 1 cost summon from Opus 22. This card is going to be a 4k forward only on your turn. And then whenever he attacks, he'll ping something for 3k. It's really nice with Tifa because he just does a free 3k ping. He also has the added effect of on damage 3, if he deals damage to something, it increases by 2k. So that 3k becomes 5k. If you have Lefty out, that 5k becomes 7k. So a really nice way to ramp up the damage you can deal to a forward in just this deck alone. Next up, we're playing Hell House. This is sort of the reason, a little bit of the reason why I wanted to build this deck. Not just for the Tifa, but because when I saw Hell House, I was like, this is a fun card. This is a funny card. Like, this card can be good. Basically, it's a 3-cost 7k. You pay the 0 action cost to make it a forward. And then on damage 3, when it attacks, it deals 3k to everything. And then on damage 6, if it's still alive and you're somehow alive at damage 6, when it attacks, it does 3k and it deals 5k. So, really just bringing in more big board wipe damage. Gets very dangerous as the game progresses because of that 3k ping with the Tifa effect. And with cards like Lefty, this swinging in on your opponent and dealing 5k to everything on their board could be pretty dangerous depending on what else you have. Especially if you have cards like Foulander out, again, Tifa, or even like a Brennhilder in hand or an Ifrit in hand. You can pretty much wipe the board with this. It's pretty nice. And then next up, it's going to be our 17 backups. These all have a specific purpose in this deck, so I'm just going to go through the Final Fantasy VII ones in general first, and then I'll go through all of the other ones. So first one is going to be Elfie here. She's going to be your Avalanche Searcher. She's going to search for either Barret or Tifa. So when she enters the field, you can discard 1 card. When you do, you search for a Avalanche Operative. Yeah, she just grabs she just grabs Tifa and Barret. She can also grab herself, because she doesn't say it has to be a forward. So if you already have the 2 in hand, or you have both of them out, and you hit this on a burst, or you play this, she can just grab herself. She also has the effect of tapping her and breaking her, so you can deal something 1k. It's a cheap way to get Tifa's effect going. It's pretty nice. Next one I'm going to move over to is going to be this 3-cost Zack from Opus 4. This is literally just to grab Cloud from your break zone if you pitched it early. He is a burst that says choose 1 card named Cloud or Job Soldier in your break zone and add it to your hand. He can also recur himself, so it is a free way to get CP if he's a burst and you pitch this card. And you don't have the Cloud in the break zone. You can also play this with soldier stuff because it's an interesting burst. Next up is going to be 2 copies of Security Officer. This is just a generic 3-cost backup from Opus 25. When it enters the field, you can choose one of the following: either deal something 5k or draw a card. Depending on when you play this is dependent on which mode you're doing. So if you play this like early in the game, you're always drawing a card. If you're playing this to the middle or later in the game, or if your opponent has a forward you need to get rid of, that's like you can get rid of with that 5k ping, you do the 5k ping. And then our last Final Fantasy VII backup is Zangan here. He is just a Tifa search. It's another way to search Tifa. You don't really use this for anything else besides searching Tifa. And now we can go sort of backwards in time. We'll just start off with Goblin Princess here, actually, for backups. She's going to be the Opus 12 Goblin Princess. She searches for 1 light forward, so it's a way to get your Shinryu. And when a light forward enters your field, you break the Goblin Princess. So it's pretty nice. You can search Shinryu, and then play Shinryu, break the Princess Goblin, and then you have another space for another backup that does something. We're going to be playing, as well, 2 copies of Opus 21 Reen. She just says, put her into the break zone, choose a monster of 3 or less, play it onto the field. Pretty nice. You can pitch a Hell House, or if your Hell House gets broken, you can use her to play it back. If your Foulander dies, she can play it back, and you can reuse your goblins with her as well. So just a way to reuse goblins. Or, sorry, monsters. Next up is Opus 24 Black Mage. This is at a 1 copy. This card is for a very specific card, that card being Light Yuna. Again, you have a million ways to deal with that card in this deck. This is just one of them. So, you put this card, when you play this card, it just sits there until you play a fire forward. Once a fire forward hits the field, you have the ability to crack this card and deal a forward 5k damage. And that's basically all it's there for. It is a nice way to get rid of something. Next up is Edgar. We've talked about this card before. He just basically says, play a free 2-drop character. This plays your backups, this plays your monsters, this plays your forwards. This gives them flash, technically, as long as he's active, and it's like your opponent's turn, you can flash in a backup, a monster, or a forward. Pretty cool because you can do this on the attack phase and flash in, let's say, like Red 13 while you have a Tifa out. And if you have the 4 more characters for Red 13 to gain haste, then he'll have haste on your attack phase. It's pretty cool. So it's a neat way to kind of close out a game. Next up, we'll have 2 copies of Opus 18 Selfie. This is another way to recur fire forwards. So she is a burst that says, when Selfie enters the field, choose 1 fire forward. In your break zone, add it to hand. She also has the added bonus of cracking her and then choosing a fire forward and giving it 3k power. So your little guys can become a little bit more deadly as long as you have her active. And then she just recurs stuff for you. Pretty nice fire card. And then our last 2 backups, it's going to be Saz from Opus 7 and Dodge from Opus 1. So these cards kind of work in tandem together, sort of. Saz actually is just going to be for your fire summons. He's just going to be a burst that searches them. Dodge is going to be the one that's going to protect the Saz. So Dodge says your card name Saz can't be chosen by summons or abilities, which is really nice because a lot of decks now have things that can target backups and freeze them or just like dull them or do something to them. This kind of gets around like Tidus LB. It gets around the Light Yuna, gets around Ice Laswell and decks like that want to freeze a backup. This is always going to at least allow you to have 1 backup active, and that 1 backup being Saz, because Dodge will protect them from being targeted. And then our LBs are going to be 3 Zax, 3 Red 13s, 3 Vincents, and 1 Mont Leonis. The 7 LBs just don't really, I don't need to explain them. They're Final Fantasy 7 LBs that either ping or, buff. So they're pretty good. And Mont Leonis is probably, if you're playing Mono Fire, you're always going to want this LB in your deck. This is a godlike LB in any Mono Fire deck. Being able to play out 2 fire forwards and giving them haste, really nice. So Mont Leonis says when he enters the field, choose 1 fire forward of 3 or less in your break zone and 1 fire forward of 5 or less in your break zone. If you control 5 fire backups, you play them onto the field and then they gain haste. Then you put a backup you control into the break zone. So it's another way to, again, remove your backline to play another backline card. He also can revive cards like Cloud, Arden, basically your whole deck besides Shinryu. So again, pitching your cards isn't that bad. Like pitching your forwards wouldn't be that bad because you have a lot of ways to recur them or resurrect them in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, that's it going to be for the deck itself. If you want to take a look at other cards you can play with the deck, you have things like Avalanche Operative. This is just Final Fantasy VII fire cards you can play in this deck. Avalanche Operative, you have Glenn with the soldier stuff can be played because of, Thumb just being 7 characters. You have other cards like Angeal. Again, the soldier package works here. You can play this Cloud. It is a DFF, but it's a soldier. You have Hedgehog Pie as a cool monster to play in this deck. Ruby Weapon is interesting. Probably not that one. But you have a bunch of different, characters you can play for a sort of Mono Fire 7 deck if you ever wanted to try out using this Tifa. It's pretty cool. And then just in general, fire cards. Ace from the new set is really good. Armstrong. You have a bunch of just weirdly synergistic cards. Again, like Clive is always useful. This Warrior of Light is pretty cool. Just a bunch of weird stuff. Takatsugu again is an amazing one. Him just saying play 2 fire 2-drops is pretty cool. And then he pings he'll ping every time a forward enters, so it's pretty nice. But yeah, that's gonna be it for our Mono Fire Tifa deck. Let me give you a sort of an example of how the deck will be running and will be working. let's see, what do we have? And a pretty good hand, actually. This is a pretty good opening hand. We've got an Edgar, we've got a Rain, we've got Barret, we've got Foulander. You know, and like, look, Enter the Hell House is really nice. I would probably pitch Hell House to go Hell House, you know, pitch Hell House for Rain, pass turn. Don't really want to super overextend, but again, here's where the card game gets pretty fun. So we'll tap the Rain, pitch the Zac, play Edgar. Edgar can play either the Foulander, the Princess Goblin, or the Elfie. This will depend on what you want. If you want to search for your Tifa early, you could just go Elfie, pitch one of your cards for the Tifa search. Or you could go Princess Goblin. Princess Goblin will search Shinryu. So you'll search out your Shinryu, and now you have that insurance of just Shinryu being in your hand. And you're already on 3 backups, which this deck kind of wants to have always. Is at least 3 backups. So now your opponent knows you have Shinryu in hand. You know, it's going to be your turn. You'll draw your 2. And then this is just totally fine. Like, you can do early Cloud here. You pitch one of your cards. I don't know. Let's say we pitch Amaterasu for sake of testing. Early Cloud. Now, depending on what they have, you could either ping their forward that they played, if they played one. If not, you go, I'll play a 7 character. I'll play the Foulander. And I'll remove 2 things, draw a card. Right? Bam. Security Officer. Or we could do that totally in a different way, where we remove the 2 first, draw a card, and then we'll play the thing. But yeah, this is really cool. Like, I really like the way this deck meshes well, like how it meshes together, how it plays. And again, like, it doesn't need to see the Tifa to win. You can just win by pinging out your opponent's forwards and then just constantly swinging. And yes, you are playing like 17 forwards, so you have to be very careful with how you play your forwards. But again, your Foullanders and your Hell Houses are technically 4 extra forwards that you have in the deck. And you have a card like Reen who can just revive her, or who can revive them. So they're pretty nice. So again, another hand, sort of similar-ish hand. This time we draw into the Tifa. You would probably just do the same thing here. Pitch the Foulander, go for Rain. And then if you wanted to play Tifa, you could pitch like the lefty for Tifa if you want. But I would say hold it until you see what your opponent does. We got a Cloud here and another Tifa with a Barret. So now I would say probably this is where you would want to like either push for damage. Like, you can do some cheeky shit like play Tifa here, swing. Alright, it's not a burst, nothing happens to it, and they leave the Tifa alone. You know, they're like, okay, it's just 1 damage. I don't really mind too much, right? Now maybe they play a forward, you know, and they have something. So if they play a forward, I would say just go full in on trying to get rid of it. Probably would want to, yeah, pitch these 2. You would pitch the Elfie and the Zac to tap the backup, play the Cloud. You would go Cloud doing ping the forward, or just going Cloud. You do Cloud doing remove 2, draw a card, and then Cloud playing a 7 character, being Security Officer since I had it in hand. Security Officer will 5k ping. Tifa effect will trigger if that 5k wasn't enough to like kill it, or let's say you didn't do, if you just wanted to draw another card. If you did draw another card, it would be a Rain, which is pretty cool. But let's say you did the 5k ping, Tifa effect triggers, prevents it from blocking, Tifa goes in, gets another point of damage. You know, that's cool. Let's say they still left the Tifa alone. They're choosing not to swing because you have Cloud. Cloud is pretty big, you know. And they choose not to do anything here. maybe they're a little bit scared, maybe they have a forward, maybe they have a forward that could challenge Cloud now. Well, now you go, well, I don't really care if you can challenge my Cloud because I'm going to play Barrett. Barrett's going to enter, and then he's going to do 369k to the forward. If that forward is able to challenge Cloud or, maybe scare out the Tifa from swinging, now it's dead, and now Tifa will trigger to prevent another thing from blocking. And then you would swing in with Tifa, probably hold the Cloud because you don't want to swing in with the Cloud just yet. And then even then you can do like a Tifa S ability. You can save the Tifa S ability for their turn. You can crack Rain here at any point to play out the Hell House. But I would say wait until like a damage, maybe like damage 2 or 3. See what your opponent does, then do this Rain effect. But yeah, you can see how this deck could easily be pretty fast, pretty aggro-y, and like sort of just aggressive and annoying to deal with. And again, that's not even showing off like my opponent swinging at me and me getting bursts, right? Because like if we did like one more, right? Card. Let's just say I'm just playing a normal game. Yada yada. I draw 2 cards, that's cool. I'll go, sure, this is activated. Sure, I'll pitch these 2 for Saz, Saz dodge combo. We'll get our fire summon. We'll take the Ifrit just because it's not a burst, and, why not, right? Right, and now let's say the opponent had some hasters and they smack me. Okay, cool, not a burst. Not a burst. Not the best, display. That's a burst. We'll get us forward back, right? Something like that. Like, you'll probably see the burst more often than not. Again, I did draw into Terra, Brynhildr, Saz was in my starting hand. So you're most likely more than not going to see a burst if you do ever get hit. So you don't really worry too much about getting hit. You also don't really mind taking damage because you have like damage 3s and stuff in this deck that you want to, have pop off. So again, like you have lefties damage 3 that you want to pop off with. You have your Hell House damage 3 that you want to pop off with, and you have your Foulander damage 3 that you want to pop off with. So you don't really mind taking hits in this deck because you have sort of dangerous like damage 3 stuff in this deck. So if your opponent can't really rush you out, and let's say you're getting lucky on like your Brynhildr bursts and maybe like a Barrett or just other cards that can net you other things, you're just getting very, very good luck and you're having a very good time with this deck. And then you could just pop off with like a Hell House Goblin combo, to wipe your opponent's board and swing the game back into your favor. But that'll be it from me. This was my Monofire Tifa sort of Final Fantasy VII-esque list for the Final Fantasy TCG. If you guys did enjoy this video and you did like the deck, or you thought it was interesting, maybe you want to try it out, maybe you want to fix it, please like, comment, and let me know how you would change this deck. What would you play in this deck? Like, how would you see how you would play this deck? But in that regard, that'll be all from me. Remember, guys, just build what you like to play and play what you love to play. You don't have to play the most meta shit. You don't have to play the most competitive shit. Just have fun with the decks that you're playing and, try something fun. But anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Laters.